everybody. I'm Kim Coble, Executive Director of the Maryland League of Conservation Voters, and we are here for a special session of conservation conversations. And we're here to talk about the special session. I am very honored to be joined by the Honorable Maggie McIntosh, who has a long history in the legislature and is a dear mentor and friend of mine as well. Maggie, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'd love to get in the call to come over.
So, special session.
Right.
Tell me a bit about what is a special session and why we have them.
Well, a special session for this legislature, Maryland, I speak to it solely, is called by the governor and approved by the majority of the House and Senate. In other words, it dawned on me when I was getting ready to talk to you about this. I checked it out, and sure enough, if the Senate or the House disagreed about calling this special session, they could have blocked it. But they didn't. They all agree in this case. And a special session is just simply when, for one reason or another, the governor, in this case in Maryland, is the one who proclaims or calls the special session. Initially, believes that the legislature should come back outside of their 90-day regular session.
Special session was pretty special for you, right?
It was, yeah. I shared with you, and I'll share with the wider audience, that when I first came to the legislature, I filled the vacancy. A friend of mine who resigned from the legislature midterm. So I came in, I was sworn in by the Speaker of the House on November 10th, 1992. And on November 18th, 1992, the governor called a special session. So the first time I walked on the floor of the House of Delegates as a delegate, the first vote I took on the floor of the House of Delegates was in a special session. And
do special sessions typically have one topic, or can you deal with multiple?
You can deal with multiple. And in this session, I've noted in the press coverage that both the House, Senate, and the governor agreed that they want to deal with one topic, that's redistricting. How do you deal with that? How do you tell Delegate McIntosh or Delegate just, no, you can't introduce a bill or bring up another topic? Well, I'm sure there'll be maneuvers on the floor to try to talk about a number of things, but they basically, the presiding officers, the Speaker and the President of the Senate, can say to bill drafting, only bills dealing with this particular topic.
Okay. So let's talk about this session, and you've mentioned that it's redistricting. This has been a hot topic across our country, as well as here in Maryland. And can you set the stage on what exactly is being considered?
Right. I mean, what's happening across the country is, my opinion, really unfortunate. This isn't the first time that there's been this idea. I think the former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, a Marylander, born and bred, had this idea and had tried to push it through when we originally did redistricting. As you know, lay of the land, the governor was for this, the Speaker was for it, and the President of the Senate had, I think I will tell you, even though I would have been on the House side, yay, my Speaker, yay, I think my Senate President, who represents me at home, I think he had some legitimate, very legitimate concerns.
Yeah. So what happened? Because I remember during the session when this was being discussed and debated, President Ferguson felt pretty strongly that this was not the way to go in Maryland. But what is being presented in the special session is a slight tweak on what had been original, right?
I think this is me just telling you, when I talked to my House colleagues, my former colleagues, about this during the early part of the session, they kind of dismissed, if you will, some of the language by Judge Pataglia that described how congressional districts should be measured. And as you know, she brought in the notion that congressional districts should also be contiguous. Now, we've always done that with state districts, but not with congressional. So that was his concern, I think, was her language, number one. That if we move forward, that rightfully so, people could bring that and petition that to court. And he also knew, because he can count to 4 or 5, that the majority of the court was controlled by the former governor, not this governor. And the former governor would have very much had people who weighed in on the side of Battaglia. So he thought this was a short-term win, long-term lose.
Yeah.
For moving this through. There was some merit to that, and I think that is evident in the fact that when I talked recently this week with Delegate Sandy Rosenberg, who's a student of, all things judicial in Maryland, he said, oh, we're not just going to do the map. We're not just going to do the map. We're also going to clean up that language. In other words, there is now recognition, I think, on both sides, House and Senate, that they need to make sure that they are clear about what they want the courts moving forward to establish, or to how they measure or how they determine the validity of congressional districts in Maryland.
So this is a decision that will last the measure of time.
We hope.
Yes. Let me also ask you about any personal experience you've had with the court cases being decided and what that looks like.
Yeah, every time we do redistricting, somebody takes something to court, somebody doesn't like it, so they take it to court. Many times they're very valid reasons, many times they're not. Redistricting became very personal to me in 2020 when we did redistricting, and I came out of the redistricting process. My district was absolutely intact, perfect. I mean, I think I added a few precincts, lost a few, but I was running unopposed in this district. And I was in the middle of the summer running unopposed when someone in Calvert County had an objection to something that went on in Calvert County over there in one of those state districts. They took it to court, and the court said, Calvert County's right, there's a problem. The courts redrew the entire map of the entire state. So my district got split up and dissolved. I was moved into a different district where I had 3 incumbent delegates running. And I had to run against 3 incumbent delegates in order to retain my seat. But I will tell you the real, for me, what's personal about that is not what happened to me. During that period of time, Baltimore City and Baltimore County shared districts. And so we had, I represented Baltimore City and Baltimore County. Barbara Hoffman, the senator, Baltimore City, they said, Baltimore City, you can't share districts. And what happened then, at the end of that redistricting process, is Baltimore City lost 50% of its representation down here in the House and the Senate. That hurt.
Yeah.
It didn't hurt me personally,
Right.
but it hurt the city,
Yeah.
because the city's never been able to regain those seats.
Okay.
The way you amend the Constitution in Maryland is that, 1, the General Assembly has to enact the language to go on the ballot. And that has to be done by 60% of the General Assembly. And then it goes to the ballot where Maryland voters say up or down.
Okay.
Yes or no. The most recent, I think, use of changing the Constitution, I believe, was when we gave the Appropriations and Budget, Tax and Fiscal Committees a little bit more power.
Yeah.
In the budget process, and that was approved by the voters.
Okay. So it really, I find this to be an inspiring process.
Yeah.
Because we're it's all about representing voters equally, and everybody's vote matters. I mean, that's what we're trying to create here,
Absolutely.
correct? And so, talk a little bit about, and especially as a seasoned elected official, the importance of voting, even in a session or in a time period where people may not be all that inspired to vote.
It is so important because the number of, I guess, issues, the number of programs, the number of times we have lost representation, we've lost our ability to move on a piece of legislation or a policy area in a progressive way because people didn't show up to vote. It's just astounding. And I think people must vote regardless, I mean, regardless of which side of the coin you're on. Show up and vote. It's important. And it's important not only for you to have a say in who you elect locally, but who you elect in Congress, who you elect for governor. And when there's a constitutional issue on the ballot, it's very important to show up then.
Right, it's changing the constitution of the state,
right.
which matters, so.
That's right.
Well, we have a lot ahead of us. The vote will be on the ballot in November. So we encourage everybody to get out there and cast your vote. You can do it by mail, you can do it in person, but it's really, really important to do so. On behalf of Maryland LCV, all our members, our board, our staff, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's great to hang with you as always, but it's also wonderful to hear your experience and knowledge around this. So
Thank you.